Welcome to the Heath and Ian, we don't know what to call the show, and with that we're going to need your help.
Yep, we're going to need your help, that's right.
Because we're not smart enough to come up with a name.
Well, I'm smart enough, but I don't think you are.
But he's still going to come up with a name, so
Yeah.
we'll leave it there. But anyway, in this segment we are going to be talking about all the latest racing news for the month, and also the latest races that have happened during the month of, in this case, in the month of
Well, we've just finished July.
July, so it'll be for the month of July. And some racing gaming news. So, what would you like to start off with? Maybe we'll look into the races that have happened during the week first.
That's right. Yes. Okay. We'll start off with We'll start off with our favourite subject, Formula One.
Yep.
And there's been a lot of developments there. I've recently read today that Alonso might be going to Red Bull. Well, Red Bull are interested.
Yes, and actually, interestingly though, Alonso has debunked that and says that there's no chance of him partnering. Super Brat. And apparently, Ferrari also saying that his contract is pretty super tight. So I don't think that's really going to happen. Interesting though.
All the rumours there that Ricardo might have lost the drive, but probably not.
Well, the biggest thing I've heard is that the manager, the main manager owner of Toro Rosso, has admitted that he believes that Daniel Ricciardo is actually going to be getting the drive at Red Bull next year.
Well, we'll wait and see. It is what they call the Philly feature.
Well, the biggest problem that they have with, as we all know, they're trying to get Kimi Räikkönen there, but apparently he's asking for.
They're after him now.
But they're after apparently they're asking for too much money. Red Bull aren't prepared to spend that kind of money. Where Lotus are.
But Ferrari have also cut that. Here's another one. Back to the Future with Kimmy's concerned that Ferrari are after him now too.
Yeah, there is some talk there, because it's quite obvious, if you look at Massa's season this year, that Ferrari definitely want to get rid of Massa. I'm afraid he might, like he did last year, he had a really bad year, and then when everyone was talking about he's going to get dropped by Ferrari, suddenly he did some good races and saved his seat. But the fact is, this year he's been crashing too often. He's just not being a really good number 2 driver.
You actually see Alonso and Raikkonen in the same team?
Could be interesting. Could be interesting. Could be interesting. But I've got a feeling Lotus will keep him there.
Yeah. Well, let's put this way. We are talking about one of the oldest teams in Formula One. In fact, the oldest. Ferrari.
Ferrari is the oldest current running team. I think then, of course, it's McLaren, which is, I think, the second oldest now, because they've been in a long time.
McLaren, Williams, and actually, hang on, no. Ferrari, McLaren, Lotus.
No, Lotus, you have to remember, the Lotus we have now is not really the same as Lotus.
No, okay,
so really, Lotus don't really count.
Ferrari, McLaren, Williams.
Because all the other teams are kind of all just kind of mixtures of everyone else, and we've had a lot of interesting stuff there. And what do you think about the news of Mark Webber leaving at the end of this year? Of course, that was announced this last month, and going over to the Le Mans for Porsche.
Well, I think, you really want my honest opinion, I think, my honest opinion on this matter, it stinks. Mark should have been given a lot more support by Red Bull. I think Super Brat should have been the one to be turned, not Mark. And let's not forget, in 2010, Red Bull did come out and say that we were supporting Vettel. Yeah, right. Yeah, Mark would have won that.
I reckon Mark's kicking himself that he didn't take up Ferrari's offer last year.
Well, let's put it this way. Mark would have run all the way at least one. Been on a podium a few more times. Ferrari would have been Red
The sad thing is that, unfortunately, Mark will never win the Australian Grand Prix.
That's the sad thing. Well, Alan Jones never won the Australian Grand Prix. Alan Jones never won.
But Formula One wasn't what it is today, like back then. There is a very big difference. Formula One never really had the following back then. Didn't really have the TV coverage and stuff like that we do nowadays.
Well, it never really did. But the whole situation with Mark and Vettel, think it harks back across centre. All the way. It harks, except a Frenchman, it's a German and an Australian. Now that's a deadly combination, if you ask me.
Okay, now, moving off from Formula 1, now onto the V8 supercars. Now the first that was announced in July was Volvo entering next year. What do you think about that?
Volvo entering into the... I think it's good. I think it's good for the factory. I think it's good for sport. I mean, I love the V8s now. The two extra teams, this one and the Mercedes. Still having a bit of trouble though, a bit of teething problems with this one.
Well, they only had a very short time to really develop their vehicles and engines and stuff like that. And Ford and Holden have had years, 10, 20 years now, basically, to perfect their series.
Well, I've talked to a lot of fans, and they've said that this season has been one of the best seasons.
It's been a great season, you know, and truthfully, with Ford cutting back their support and Holden's having to do the same, we need more manufacturers. We need more manufacturers getting involved, and we've got Nissan officially involved. We've got Volvo now officially involved. Of course, we can't really count the Uribus cars as Mercedes support, but so that's more kind of like a privateer team running cars.
A very lovely Betty Menko.
But now, talking about that, two manufacturers have said that they've been approached and that they've said no. The first was Jaguar, admitting that they weren't, but they said, I'm sorry, the sport just doesn't meet their criteria.
BMW have also had a bit of a name.
And that's the second team as well, the second manufacturer that has said no. Mazda and Hyundai said that they may be interested, but only if it wasn't V8s.
Well, there, see, that's the Hyundai don't have a V8, neither does Mazda.
And so I can understand why this is. Why do we want to race a car with an engine that we do not produce? And they're not interested. Say if they had another car that had a different kind of engine, why would they want to put that in a car, racing a car that doesn't use that engine? That's why Nissan, I don't really think this whole fact of Nissan running a Altima with a V8 really is a it's an interesting idea, but
Nissan needs to get back to their route, and their roots were the Bluebird bit back in the early mid-late 80s, the Bluebird Turbo. No, not Bluebird Turbo.
Skyline.
Skyline. But a lot of people were thinking, when they first announced that this was something like that. Here comes the Skyline again, there goes that racing. Well, actually, the Ultima's known as the Pulsar.
The fact is that the V8s, really, they're going to have to review the whole thing about V8s. They may have to bring in Turbo 6s or something like that to get other manufacturers involved. Because they need manufacturers to keep the series going. With Holden dropping the Commodore by 2006, most likely by 2016. Ford, we already know, will be. And next year, no more V8s for the Ford, because when the next model Falcon comes out, there will be no more FPV. Rest in peace, FPV. Right. So, and unfortunately...
well, that's the target you got. That's the target you got. Right? HSV is still there. FPV, gone.
Yeah, well, HSV's days could be numbered as well, truthfully.
Yeah, a little bit. See, my biggest issue with this whole thing, especially with the whole, again, the local Hulk have just started exporting to America under the Chevy badge. Now, I don't see how, the one problem I have with this, and it's a very small, very minute problem. They Hulk say that they don't have any, that they don't have the big amount of money. And yet they're exporting to America.
Because they're selling the American version too cheap, and they're not making enough money out of them.
Yeah, exactly. And yet I just saw a story last night. If the workers cannot agree on taking a pay cut, well, you might as well just say goodbye to Holden.
But look, as much as we love Holden, I'm not a Holden fan. But I'm not saying this because I the thing, but the truth is Holden can't keep asking for government handouts to keep going. If they're not making enough money, if they're not making enough money to stay afloat, then they're just going to have to accept what's going to happen.
Yeah,
I'm afraid that is the truth. As much as the Commodore's a really good car, I've started to see them on the roads now. They do look good. Their sales still aren't that crash hot, I'm afraid, and people have just got too much choice now. There's just so much out there. Talking about that kind of area, Opel announced today that they're pulling out of Australia. They've only been here for a year, and in the last year they've only sold 1,500 cars.
That's not big enough.
That's not good.
Not for our market.
So unfortunately Opel are withdrawing again. They came in, they tried and they've gone. But the truth is, I think they need to look into reviewing V8 engines, V6 engines, or maybe even 4s. But the other thing is they need to open up maybe 2 doors again.
I mean, I was reading this. This guy's a legend.
Yeah.
I know I'm a Holden guy, but I'll tell you what, Vic's a legend. And I'll tell you this much. When I scored 4 last week in Queensland, I thought you were doing it. And when I found out it was a DJR car,
that was incredible. That race that Chaz Mostert did was brilliant.
Now, I'm a Holden now. Everybody knows that I'm a Holden fan, but I put the word out on Facebook. I said, look, let's all get behind it. He's been there since he's got. Hang on a second. Yes.
We'll have to cut this bit out.
Okay. We pause that. Are we still recording or are we...
I'll cut this tiny bit out.
Oh, I see. Oh, it's cold over there.
Yeah, it's getting a bit cold. Had to put my forward jacket on. Uh-oh. You froze up there for a second.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so we're ready back to talking?
Yep.
Okay,
Oh, yes.
so we're back. We're talking about Chaz Mostert and that. Now, we're getting a bit sidetracked to what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah.
The fact is, they need to bring in different engines. Like for Ford, they need to bring in 2 doors and stuff like that. I think Triple H said this, look, they need to be allowed the Mustang, the next generation Mustang, which will be sold in Australia, and a V8. And also, they're looking into the possibility of maybe letting the Camaro replace the Commodore in there.
Yeah, I think Camaro, well, we've had the Camaro before. I don't see why we can't do it now.
Well, Ford have thought about bringing the Camaro here. I mean, Ford bringing the Mustang here, kind of like to replace it so we've got a sports V8 to be able to choose from.
Yeah.
Holden will, I think if the Commodore does, go the way of the Dodo, then you'll probably see Holden, we'll look into bringing the Camaro here, so we've still got an option of a V8 sports vehicle for those people who want those.
One thing I agree with you is, we've had the V8 for such a long time. I think if you go back to 1986 time, first brought in a Group A car, where it was Ford, Volvo first time.
1985, 84, 85 I think. 85.
85 I think it was, yes.
I've just been watching that. It's the first year that Dick started racing the green Mustang.
Yeah.
Robbie Frantific was racing in the Volvo.
Turbo Volvo.
The Turbo Volvo.
George Fury and George Fury and Gary Scott were driving the Turbo Nissan.
There's Nissan Bluebirds, which they then moved. And then a little bit later, I think a couple of years later, then they moved to the Skyline.
Yeah. Rocky was driving the big old Cosmos finger.
Yep. One of the classics, I think. That was before he went to mobile. He's still got. I think in '85 he still had the Marlboro. Did he have Marlboro still?
No, he had Mobile.
He had Mobile.
Mobile in '85.
That's right.
Years of 85, 86 and every year 6. Rock had Mobile. He produced HRT.
But look, I think they need to look into we're going too much NASCAR like with the V8s, and I think they need to look into more like, I think, the Group A's. My best area was the Group A days. I know everyone didn't like the GTRs because they were winning all the time, but they were brilliant cars.
They were a brilliant car. And I must admit, Rocky went to Sierra, I jumped to the So,
yeah.
one and only time.
Brock did finally get to grow some brains and join Racer Ford, and then, you know, he released a Brock Edition Falcon EA.
Yes, I've seen one. They're very rare though. They're very, very rare.
They're very, very, very nice cars. Okay, now the final part of this is we're just going to talk about kind of like a racing game. Now we all, me and you being racing fans, Codemasters have announced F1 2013, which will be out on, I think, October the 7th, if I remember right.
I've heard October 4th.
Somewhere around that period of time.
Somewhere around that
4th,
time.
7th, somewhere around that period of time. Interestingly, they've also going to include some historic race cars from, I believe, the 1980s and the 1990s. And also 2 tracks from those eras as well, per era. So you're going to actually have 4 new tracks to drive them. Now, I think the reason why they've had to do this is because really there hasn't been much change in Formula 1 from last year to this year.
No,
because this year is really just kind of like a gap year to next year. Because next year they bring in the turbo V6s, 1.6 litre V6s.
Yes. So
that's going to be very interesting. I've actually seen a video of the sound from the Mercedes, what they believe it's going to sound like. It sounds actually quite good, actually. It doesn't sound as bad as people were trying to make them out to be.
No.
So next year's going to be interesting.
Wait for it. 2015, Honda, McLaren, back together again.
That is great news in context. That's interesting. I think McLaren is probably going to have to write off next year, because even though they're going to have the new Mercedes turbo next year, it's like only for 1 year.
This year, McLaren have had no one.
They've just had a shocking year. And at the start of the year, I thought, you know, has Hamilton really done the right thing going to Mercedes? And the answer is now is hell yes.
He drove brilliantly last year.
At Hungary. Now, talking about Hungary, I think, now we all know what we think about Grosjean. He's pretty well known at crashing into things. Now, he admitted...
Grosjean.
He admitted he rode quite well at Hungary. Now he admitted fault with and deserved a penalty with Jenson Button. Now he got given a 20-second penalty for that. But I don't think that's really enough, because it didn't change his position. They really need to look and go, okay, we're going to give you a 1 or 2 place penalty, not second. That would have put him behind Button. But all they did was give him a 20-second penalty, and it didn't change the results, because Button, who finished 1 place behind him, was over 20 seconds behind him.
Yeah.
So, really, it wasn't really a penalty. It didn't do anything. But the controversy about that weekend was his pass on Philip Massa. They penalised him, saying that he took Massa with all 4 wheels off the track. But they weren't. And even Massa himself. Now, if the drivers didn't like that, i.e. Mr. Superbrat Vettel would have cried like a baby. Like he did near the end of the race. But the thing is, Massa said it was a fair pass. He said it was actually a bloody good pass. Massa liked it and said that the penalty, you got to drive for penalty for that. And it's just uncalled for. I really don't know what these guys are thinking about when they do this.
But no, I mean, think back 20 years ago. Say, let's take example 89. Back when it was cross centre, McLaren, your favourite car, my favourite car, Duca. Some people said that Alain cut centre off. Fair enough. Some people say that it cut Alain off. We'll never know.
But interesting, Senna did get penalised for that, but he wasn't penalised for that contact.
No, he wasn't. What he was penalised for was for going through the exit road.
They said that he should have turned around and went head-on into the traffic and entered back on the track there. But no, he went cut through the chicane and then entered back on the track that way. And there was a lot of controversy. I remember the year after, if you watch the Ayrton Senna documentary, hear Senna actually talking about that and saying, well, what's the rules there? And he almost walked out. I think he actually did walk out of the meeting or something.
Yeah, well, we all know that Nelson never really got along anyway. It's the same with Nelson PK and Nigel Mansell.
Not many people did get on well with Nigel Mansell, actually. But he was a good driver. I enjoyed Mansell.
Well, yes, Nigel was a good driver. I mean, no disrespect intended to Nigel. But the thing is, though, when you have a look at that accident, I swear to God, I see Alain kind of like, give that front tyre a little bit of a tap. I've seen that race over and over and over again, and I said to myself, you know what? Alain's going to pop the penalty.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of controversial things like that with those kind of contacts, and we'll never really know the real truth. Just like the Greg Murphy-Ambrose accident at Bathurst. I've seen footage of that, an in-car footage from Murphy's car, and it was on YouTube and it got deleted, so there must be some kind of controversy with this. But you can actually see Murphy turn into him. Murphy meant to put Ambrose in the wall at that point.
Now those two guys...
And they don't like each other at all. But I would actually like to see Ambrose come back into the V8 at some point, because...
Ambrose has said count it out because he's too busy with NASCAR.
Well, I've heard basically it looks like if he doesn't start doing better, he may get dropped by NASCAR. And I think you give him a couple more years, he'll probably have to say, look, it's just not getting anywhere, and he may come back. So never say never with, I think, with that.
Yeah, but who would he go with?
Well, Stone Brothers / Ubers have said that, and there's always an open door for him. They're believing there'll be some teams who would want to get Ambrose in because he's a very good driver.
I think what I met Marcus Ambrose, and I can't see him in the same. Sorry.
Truthfully, I reckon the best fitting for Ambrose, because he's always been kind of a four-person, would be FPR, because they do need a decent driver.
Oh, what? Frosty bottom.
Now, Frosty, look, he's a great one-lap wonder. I call him. He's the one-lap wonder.
Davison had more success in that team than Frosty ever had.
Yeah, but Frosty, Davison's pretty good, but he's just not. He has his kind of off and on times, and Frosty is a great qualifier, but he's just not. He's just not. He just doesn't get a good race. If he gets in front and gets the kind of thing he does well, but he just seems to not.
That first pit stop, that's the kicker.
Yeah, at least they need to fix their pit stopping too, because FPR have had some shockers this year. Absolute shockers.
Townsville. Townsville got it right. Pit through, got it right.
Yeah.
Went on and won. Then Sunday, HRP came back. Yeah.
Yeah, well done to both those days. On the Saturday we had FPR getting the 1-2, and on the Sunday we had HSV. So well done to both, or HRT should we say. And also I heard during the news, I can say that Brian Briscoe will be Russell Ingall's teammates at for the endurance races. That's been confirmed.
They're that first
Gold Coast.
Gold Coast?
Yeah. So Ryan Briscoe will be, because there was talk of him going to be teammate with Tander, but apparently that wasn't never really 100% confirmed. But he will be coming to Australia because he hasn't got a full-time drive in the IndyCars.
No.
So
well, still what happened on.
And he did actually. Because I do follow the IndyCars, and he did have an accident where someone hit him and yanked the steam and broke his wrist. Believe it or not. So he's actually had surgery and had to recover from that. So it'll be good to see Briscoe come back and do that. Talking about IndyCar, the person who in the last, I think, 3 or 4 years has been fighting for the championship has been Australian Will Power. But this year he has had a shocker. He hasn't won a race yet. He hasn't even been on the podium yet. He's had a shocking year. I don't know what's happened to him there. But no, I would love to see 10, 7 or 9, even if it's on their 7 mate or something like that, start showing the IndyCar races again.
Well, all signs are pointing to Channel 7 going in that direction. 7 mate would be size. Well,
I think if the news that's been happening, kind of a little rumour going around at the moment, is that they do want to bring IndyCar back to Australia. Yeah. And if that does happen, then I would say one of the TV stations may take hold of it. Well, they've approached saying they would like to go back to Indy again.
Where?
Indy.
Yeah, but I'm saying, where would we have the Indy cars though?
Gold Coast. Indy, where they had the Indy.
Well, there was a rumour that Adelaide had a bit of a win.
There's talk. I think the talk is. I think it's either Gold Coast or Adelaide.
Tell you what, we'd love to have them down here.
I know you would.
Welcome down here.
Maybe have one weekend you have the V8 and then the following weekend you have IndyCar, so they don't really have to pull the path of the track again.
Oh, just move it up a little bit.
Yeah. Just maybe go to the full track, bring back the full Form 1 track again if they could.
That would be good to see.
Yeah.
That would be good to see the IndyCar. That would be fantastic.
Anyway, I would love to continue going, but it's nearly 9:15 and I've got to go and down the Gold Coast pick up these people again. It's going to be late night.
I don't envy you, mate.
Yeah, don't envy me too. But this is going to be at the end of our first show. So remember, guys, if you can think of a name for the segment, please comment below because we bang up.
This could be open for trolling. This could be open for trolling.
Yes, we could be open for trolling too. So we keep banging our heads together, but it just gives us headaches. It doesn't actually give us a name. But yeah, if you can think of a thing, we're going to try and do this once a month. That's about it. So look, Heath, thank you very much for your time.
No worries, mate.
And we will catch you all later. And remember, if you can think of a name, comment below.
Go the Holden.
Go forward.